Well, I spoke to the Reform UK's Laila Cunningham, who defected to the party from the Conservatives last month. She was sitting next to Nigel Farage there. Thank you very much for being on the Politics Hub today. It's good to have you in studio. So, Reform pledging today to halve all crime in 5 years if you were to be in power. Just talk me through how you'd do that.
There are many measures. One is that we'd hire 30,000 extra police officers. But it's not only about hiring, it's hiring the right police officers. And it's instilling respect for police and making it a job that people actually want to do. I've spoken to a few sergeants in the Met, and they've told me they've got a real recruiting issue because there is no more respect for police officers. It's not a job that people want to do. And I think just seeing a police officer walk down the street is a huge deterrent, and I don't see any where I live.
So what, you say the right kind of police officers. What does that mean?
I don't know if, I'm sure you know that, but they were conducting interviews online before and not in person. And I think you need interviews in person. That's when you really get to know someone, you look them in the eye. Good old-fashioned human instinct that you would have in an interview that fails. And that's, sadly, we have seen some rogue police officers. Yeah. Also, the murder of Sarah Everard, you know, there were concerns before. He was caught flashing. You know, that should have been immediate dismissal, but it wasn't.
Sarah Pochin has talked about, you know, perhaps reintroducing the height, like a minimum height requirement, for example. Is that the sort of thing that you would support?
I haven't heard Sarah say that.
A bit more freelancing, maybe, then.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know about the height restriction. For me, it's more your attitude and why you go into policing.
And how about women as well? Are you kind of comfortable seeing, like, for example, like 2 female officers on patrol, or do you think that actually there should be, you know, guys there as well?
Oh, absolutely. I was invited as a criminal prosecutor to the police dojo, where they put us in very high-risk situations, make-believe. And I fought with some of those women who are pretending to be criminals, and they are hardcore.
Because that's something that she said. She said that, you know, she wouldn't be comfortable seeing 2 female officers on patrol.
I haven't heard her say that. I don't have any issues with female police officers. I think some are very dedicated to the force. All the women I've come across in the force have been very dedicated and put themselves in very difficult situations to protect us.
And also, I was interested on the stuff on prisons as well, right? Because a lot of this stuff is also kind of toughening up the perspective on prisons. So you want to build new prisons in disused MOD land. How many kind of new prison officers do you think you would need to staff those prisons?
I don't think we've got down to the operational needs as such. There's a few years to flush out the policy, but we are thinking of adding 12,400 new prison spaces. And I'd like to point out to Oakwood Prison, which has actually, their running cost is about 19,000 per prisoner, whereas the average is 33 for Category C. And the way they do it is they have modular builds and they support many thousands of prisoners. So the fixed costs are spread out over more prisoners. And I think that's what we'll be looking to do.
Look, I understand, I completely understand that Reform want to prioritise tackling crime, that you want to look at sending more people to prison. You know, that's a policy that you have. But I guess my point is, you know, is it really realistic to just say, oh, we're going to work out all that stuff about how many new prison officers we would need at a later date? It just doesn't feel like it's a, you know, realistic policy. You know, if I had a Labour or Conservative politician here saying that, you know, I'd have a go at them. So you need to have the same, you know, the same kind of scrutiny, right?
No, of course. And 4 years down the line, I can guarantee you we'll have a very, very detailed
But you've announced a policy today, though.
Yeah, we've announced how many new prison places we'd construct. And perhaps in the policy there is the number of prison officers. I don't know that offhand right now.
Yeah, I couldn't see it in the briefing note. I guess, you know, there is a kind of question about how sort of serious this is as a policy. You know, anyone can say what they'd like to do. You know, I'd like to sort of, you know, score a winning goal in a Champions League final, but, you know, it's about whether you can make it happen, right?
So about scoring a Champions League, you got to first of all build the good team, right? And that's what we're building. And the good team would include more prisons and the right approach to crime. And then you decide who's going to take the free kick, but you don't decide until you're in front of that penalty shot. You don't decide before. And as the detail will come. But right now, we want the public to be assured that we mean business when we're going to say that we are going to cut crime by half.
But how can the public believe that if you don't have these, you know, quite nuts and bolts answer to the question?
But you're focusing on one nuts and bolts, which is how many prison officers.
That's quite important, though, isn't it? It's not like
I think the prison space is what's more important. Do you know how many prison officers there are now?
Well, I'm not announcing a policy, though, am I?
No, and I think if you asked any minister, I don't think they could pull a number out of the hats. What we're facing now is a severe shortage of prison space. The fact that they're releasing violent criminals early for me, is a real insult to victims. Mm-hmm. And if we can build more space for those, and also we're talking about deporting foreign prisoners and sending them to prisons abroad, just like Denmark did. And it's worked very well, and you've seen it in the US, it's worked very well.
So just looking at on prisons, you're saying that you'd spend around £1 billion, a year on these extra prison prices and the extra prisoners that you put in there as well.
Yeah.
And where's that money going to come from?
Money will come from reducing the cost of prisoners, so it will pay itself. So right now, prisoners, high security prisons are costing about 52,000, and in France the average is about 40.
So what are you going to cut? What are you going to cut then?
You can cut staff. You can cut managerial staff.
Introduce more prison officers, though, aren't you?
Yeah, but when you have more prisons and they cover more prisoners, all those fixed costs are spread. As opposed to small prisons. And don't forget, we're going to send more abroad. So sending them abroad, we'd pay 25,000 per prison space as opposed to 52,000.
OK. You have spoken before. I'm interested about your kind of story a bit as well, right? Because you've spoken a bit more about, being a mum of teenagers, about living in London, and about not feeling safe. Just talk to me a little bit more about what that's been like.
So I have a few teenagers at home, and I grew up in London. I used to play basketball in my local league, and at the age of 12, I'd go down to Brixton, Newham. These parts were not as nice as they are now. And my parents never worried about me in the way that I worry about my children. My boys in particular, one's been mugged at knife point, and another one's been mugged. And it was up to me to do the legwork for the police, because I'd ring the police. So one of them, I followed the mugger down to the basement in McDonald's, our local McDonald's, and they told me, I'm sorry, we just do not have enough resources. Another time, there were consistent muggers. They were targeting my kids and their friends, and I had to do the legwork. So I would take photos of them. I would follow them to local estates because they wear balaclavas, so you could recognise them from their shoes. I would tell the police what estate they're from. I would speak to all the local shops who sell stolen phones, and I said, I'm watching you. If you sell these, it's going to be counterfeit. You're going to be an accomplice. And I've said this many times, but the press called me vigilante mum. But it's not something that I wear with pride. I don't want to risk my life. But any mother knows, anyone messes with your children, you see red, you'll do whatever it takes.
Were you frightened?
No, actually, I was so angry. When my son told me he was mugged straight after school in Sainsbury's, the guy told him, if you snitch, I'll kill you. I went down from my house and I roamed the streets with severe anger. I'm like, nobody messes with my child. But I don't advise anyone to do that. It's just, you see red, especially when you know the police aren't going to do anything. The police did catch him eventually. But in terms of, my son didn't want to report it at all. He was told, if you snitch, I'll kill you.
But the police did get them
They did get him because he was brazen and committed a bunch of them. But my son was the only one that appeared as a witness at the trial, because the other youth were scared.
Nigel Farage has said today that people don't understand how close to civil disobedience we are on a vast scale. Do you agree with him?
I do, because I'm frustrated. I want to protest in the street. I'm angry at what they've done to this country. I'm born and raised here, and I love Britain, but it is unsafe. I was in Chicago and New York on holiday, because my husband's American, and so many people were like, oh my God, we've heard about what's going on in London or in the UK. Are you guys okay?
We are okay, though, right? I live in London,
You're okay because maybe you come to work in a taxi or an Uber, but, for
I don't, by the way. But
No, for teenagers, if I'm on the train with my son and he sees someone in a balaclava, he is petrified. And that's been allowed to proliferate. And as a prosecutor, I know that knives are hidden in so many bushes, so many playgrounds, and it's just changed. The fabric of the country's changed. People don't feel safe anymore.
OK, it's great to have you on the programme.
Thank you
very much, Hannah.